Let us read Psalm 144. Blessed be the Lord my rock, who trains my hands for war, my fingers for battle. He is my steadfast love and my fortress, my stronghold and my deliverer, my shield and he in whom I take refuge, who subdues peoples under me. O Lord, what is man that you regard him, or the son of man that you think of him? Man is like a breath. His days are like a passing shadow. Bow your heavens, O Lord, and come down. Touch the mountains so that they smoke. Flash forth the lightning and scatter them. Send out your arrows and rout them. Stretch out your hand from on high. Rescue me and deliver me from the many waters, from the hand of foreigners, whose mouth speak lies and whose right hand is a right hand of falsehood. I will sing a new song to you, O God. Upon a 10-stringed harp I will play to you. Who gives victory to kings, who rescues David his servant from the cruel sword. Rescue me and deliver me from the hand of foreigners, whose mouths speak lies and whose right hand is a right hand of falsehood. May our sons in their youth be like plants full grown, our daughters like corner pillars cut for the structure of a palace. May our granaries be full, providing all kinds of produce. May our sheep bring forth thousands and thousands in our fields. May our cattle be heavy with young, suffering no mishap or failure in bearing. May there be no cry of distress in our streets. Blessed are the people to whom such blessings fall. Blessed are the people whose God is the Lord. There is a well-known story from military history about a young recruit who complained bitterly about the harshness of his training. The drills were relentless, the discipline strict, the instructions exacting. One day, exhausted and frustrated, he asked his commander, "Why must you push us so hard? Surely this is excessive." The commander replied calmly, "Because when the day of battle comes, it will not be the enemy who trains you. You will fall back on what you have learned here." Years later, that same soldier testified that those grueling days of preparation saved his life and the lives of others when real combat arrived. Training, though painful, was an act of mercy. Psalm 144 opens with that same truth, spoken not by a novice, but by a seasoned warrior king. David begins with praise. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. These are not the words of a man fascinated by violence, nor of one intoxicated with his own strength. They are the words of someone who had stood on battlefields, faced enemies far stronger than himself, and survived only because the Lord had prepared him. David knew war from a very young age. Long before he wore a crown, he walked into the valley of Elah as a shepherd boy, while trained soldiers trembled. Goliath was not defeated by David's muscle or military schooling. He was defeated by David's absolute confidence that the battle belonged to the Lord. David understood something early in life that many may never learn. When God stands behind a man, no enemy, however large or loud, can stand before him. The stone that struck the giant was guided by a hand trained by God himself. In the opening verses of this psalm, David piles up descriptions of who God is to him. He calls him his rock, his steadfast love, his fortress, his stronghold, his deliverer, his shield, the one in whom he takes refuge. This is not poetic excess. It is experiential theology. David is saying, the same God who trains me to fight also surrounds me when I fight. God does not merely teach his servant how to swing the sword and then leave him exposed. He remains the fortress in which David stands, the shield that absorbs the blow, and the deliverer who brings him out alive. David goes even further. He says that it is the Lord who subdues peoples under him. In other words, God is not only his trainer and his defense, God is also his warrior. David never believed that victories were the result of his personal brilliance. He knew that he was participating in battles that ultimately belonged to the Lord. This truth was beautifully recognized by Abigail when she met David in a moment of great temptation. She said to him, "My Lord is fighting the battles of the Lord." That single sentence captures the heart of David's life. He was not advancing his own agenda. He was caught up in God's purposes. That perspective kept David from trusting in military resources alone. He lived out what he later wrote: "Some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we trust in the name of the Lord our God." Horses and chariots represented the best military technology of the ancient world. Yet, David understood their limitations. Weapons fail, strength fades, strategies collapse, but the name of the Lord never fails. Those who trust in human power ultimately fall. Those who trust in the Lord rise and stand upright. As the psalm progresses, David suddenly shifts from strength to weakness. He asks, "O Lord, what is man that you regard him, or the son of man that you think of him?" After speaking of victories and battles, he reflects on human frailty. Man is like a breath. His day is like a passing shadow. David is not contradicting himself. He is grounding his confidence properly. The one who fights bravely must never forget how small he truly is. Courage that is not rooted in humility becomes arrogance. David's awareness of his brevity deepens his dependence on God rather than diminishing it. From that place of humility, David cries out for divine intervention. He asks God to stretch out his hand from on high to rescue and deliver him from overwhelming forces, which he describes as many waters. The imagery is powerful. Anyone who has been caught in a flood knows that strength alone is useless. Survival depends entirely on being rescued. David's confidence is not in his ability to swim, but in God's ability to save. He believes that thunder, lightning, and the forces of creation are at God's command. The same God who split the Red Sea can scatter enemies with ease. When deliverance comes, David responds with praise. He promises to sing a new song, to worship God with music that reflects fresh gratitude. Victory does not lead him to self-congratulation, but to worship. He recognizes that it is God who gives victory to kings and rescues his servant from the cruel sword. Even the crown on David's head is, in his mind, evidence of God's faithfulness rather than personal achievement. The psalm then widens its horizon. David begins to pray not just for himself, but for the well-being of God's people. He envisions sons growing strong and daughters flourishing, livestock increasing, storehouses full, and streets free from distress and conflict. These are not extravagant fantasies, but the ordinary blessings of peace, stability, and provision. David understands that when God deals with deceit and evil among his people, the result is a community that thrives. Spiritual faithfulness produces practical fruit. He concludes with a declaration that summarizes the entire psalm. Blessed are the people whose God is the Lord. The blessing is not ultimately in prosperity or security, but in belonging to the covenant God. All other blessings flow from that one relationship. When we meditate on this psalm today, it becomes clear that its relevance goes far beyond ancient battlefields. We too are engaged in warfare, though not against flesh and blood. We face spiritual opposition, internal struggles, temptations, discouragements, and unseen forces that seek to weaken our faith. The good news is that the same Lord who trained David's hands for war trains his people today. He equips us with spiritual armor, shields us with his presence, and fights on our behalf. Yet this psalm also confronts us with a question. What is our role? Training is never passive. No soldier becomes effective by resisting instruction. Paul's exhortation to Timothy captures this perfectly. He calls believers to share in suffering as good soldiers of Christ Jesus, to avoid entanglement with civilian pursuits, and to live with a single aim, to please the one who enlisted them. Discipline, focus, and willingness to endure hardship are essential marks of spiritual maturity. Paul did not speak these words lightly. Near the end of his life, he could say with confidence, I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. I have kept the faith. That testimony was forged through years of obedience, suffering, correction, and perseverance. The crown he anticipated was not earned by talent, but by faithfulness. The practical application of this psalm is therefore both comforting and challenging. God is the one who gives victory, but we are called to cooperate with his training. This means submitting to his word, accepting his correction, remaining in prayerful communication with him, and refusing distractions that dull our spiritual alertness. It means trusting his strength while acknowledging our weakness. It means showing up for training even when it is uncomfortable, knowing that the battlefield will demand what the training has produced. The Lord has already won the decisive victory through Christ. The enemy is defeated, though still active. Our calling is to enter into that victory by faith, to stand firm, and to take hold of what God has promised. As we do, we can echo David's praise with confidence and humility. Blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war. May he train us well, keep us faithful, and enable us to fight the good fight until the end. God bless.